Gaethje versus Paddy will crown an interim champion, while the real #1 contender, Arman Tsarukyan, watches from home and the UFC doesn't even care.
The winner of this fight is going to fight Ilya. What happens to Arman? Arman's going to have to fight who? What is going on? What does Arman Tsarukyan have to do to get a shot at the belt now? He did what Khamzat and Islam did not do. He finished his opponent on the ground in dominant, impressive fashion. And now what is he? Now he's just floating in the wind.
The MMA world is boiling, and fans think Dana White just robbed Arman again because UFC 324 will headline Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett instead of the rightful contender. Keep watching, because later in this video I'm dropping the reason the UFC may never book Arman next unless something massive changes.
Dana White just announced it. Arman Tsarukyan ain't gonna like it, but it doesn't matter because we do. Paddy Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje for the interim lightweight UFC Championship of the world, kicking off the new era.
Arman Tsarukyan is crying in a hotel room as we speak. I just saw Arman Tsarukyan sink to his knees in a Target somewhere. This is really, really bad news for him, but really great news for fight fans.
Gaethje's pumped to go to war one more time before hanging them up, and Paddy's already planning 2026 like he owns the whole division, but nobody is asking the question, why is Arman Tsarukyan invisible? And you do not want to click off before you hear what Ariel Helwani said about the UFC's decision, because it's going to blow this situation apart.
Obviously, you just saw Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett for the interim title. Earlier, Topuria posted, I'm dealing with some personal problems, so I'm not gonna fight the first quarter. So the winner of Gaethje versus Paddy will be the interim title, and then they will face Topuria.
Gaethje goes full Grateful Veteran, saying this is his perfect dance partner and one more unforgettable night to prove he's still one of the most dangerous men alive. But Arman fires back like a man who's been disrespected one too many times.
First ever time when I fought in January, the earliest I've ever fought. It's gonna ruin my Christmas dinner and my birthday because I'm 31 like 3 weeks before it. But it's all gonna be worth it when I lift that real title above my head and Paddy the Baddy is a world champion. And 2026 is going to be the biggest year of my life. I am coming for that interim title, then I'll be making it the undisputed title when I come and beat Ilia Topuria up and take the undisputed title. And then little posh boy, if he manages to fight in that time, because he likes and out and saying he's got a sore back, if little posh boy fights in that time and keeps his ranking, I'll punch his head in as well.
Arman hits Twitter in frustration, saying this fight makes no sense, and Ariel Helwani backs him with verbal napalm, calling the matchup thrown together, BMF energy masquerading as a belt fight, and openly asking what else Arman must do to get his shot. Keep watching, because the twist Helwani drops later in this story changes the whole picture.
The #1 contender at 155 pounds is a guy named Arman Tsarukyan, and he's not involved in this fight. This is a makeshift fight. This is as prestigious as a BMF title. God bless. I said I wanted to see Paddy fight for the belt. God bless. But this is a bogus fight, and it's insane to me that it is headlining over Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes. On paper, Paddy versus Justin is a fine fight to determine the #1 contender to fight Ilya and or Arman. Ilya won that belt back in June. I don't even think you need an interim title fight. Honestly, it should have been the co-main event, 5-round #1 contender fight, Ilya versus Arman, second half of the year. What's the problem with that? And now what you just said, because he reiterated this in the Instagram live, the winner of this fight is going to fight Ilya. What happens to Arman? Arman's going to have to fight who? What is going on? What does Arman Tsarukyan have to do to get a shot at the belt?
Helwani reminds everyone, Arman did everything right. Smoked Dan Hooker, waited, earned it, proved it, and still gets shoved aside like he's the 10th ranked guy begging for scraps. Luke Thomas blasts the UFC too, saying choices like these weaken the entire sport and show the promotion cares more about making money than crowning the true #1.
I know he had the fight back in January. He got hurt. Sue the guy. He sat patiently. He went out there. He steamrolled right through Dan Hooker. He did exactly what he had to do. He did what Khamzat and Islam did not do. He finished his opponent on the ground in dominant, impressive fashion. And now what is he? Now he's just floating in the wind. And he's not even next, apparently. Now, of course, everything can change. Nothing really means anything. They make up the rules as they go along. But to put Justin and Paddy in the interim title slot and then have the winner of that fight Ilya is insane to me, and worse than that, because we have seen interim title fights that have felt a little fugazi. I cannot believe that they are headlining this card with that fight.
And here's the shocker. The UFC only created the interim because Ilia Topuria can't fight for 4 months since he's drowning in a brutal divorce and hasn't seen his daughter. Max Holloway steps in like a true leader, wishing Ilia strength and understanding his pain, and Ilia thanks him like a brother.
You are gonna hollow out your product doing shit like this long enough. It's not just that you're not meeting expectations, you're just not. The fight business has always been one of manipulation. The fight business has always been one of the promoters massaging stuff to get what they want. It's a part and parcel of what they do. This is hardly some new practice, right? But it feels like there are moments in time where you can't really fuck around with that, and that's kind of what we're getting here. We're getting a lot of that. We're getting fights where there's obvious ways to go a different direction and they just don't go that direction, clearly because they've got some other aim in terms of how they want to generate revenue. They're just extracting wealth out of the bout rather than matchmaking for a real clear sense of who's the best.
Michael Bisping confirms this personal storm would break most fighters mentally, and Din Thomas praises Ilia for stepping away with maturity instead of clinging to the belt and holding everyone hostage. This is where the business gets cold, because Din Thomas says Paramount wants fighters who sell shows, not just win fights, and that's why Arman gets ignored while others get belts.
Ilya has expressed interest about moving up and maybe trying to face Makhachev. How realistic is this scenario, do you think? You know, does it leave Tsarukyan in limbo at lightweight?
Stupid. He's not moving up. Like, come on. There's too many horses in the stable at 170.
I'm moving up.
Yeah.
Is he trying to run from Arman? Is Ilya running from Arman?
I do think so.
Oh,
okay. That's
I do think so.
Hello.
With that said, I think that Ilya Topuria.
Who wouldn't want to run from Arman? Have you seen him before?
I'm running from him currently. I don't even know the guy I'm running from.
I do think Ilya Topuria is the highest skilled fighter in the UFC right now, but I do think he is threatened by Arman. Arman's big, he's strong, he's great at the weight class, his boxing is clean, great grappling. It's a tough fight for him to where he can go to 70s, maybe he doesn't get the win. It doesn't make sense to me. The only fight for Ilya Topuria right now is Arman.
Din Thomas says the UFC is now looking for explosive entertainers, not grind-heavy grapplers like Arman Tsarukyan. And even though Arman would take the interim fight in a heartbeat, they're picking spotlight killers over the best technician. And this next part is key, so stay locked in.
Is going through a divorce right now, so of course that's a tough time for anybody, and it is very, very distracting. You can't focus on a fight in the training camp, and certainly an opponent when you're going through a divorce. So I'm certainly not going to talk about that any more than what I have done there. Ilya, we wish you nothing but the best.
Michael Bisping calls Gaethje versus Paddy extremely competitive, praising Gaethje's explosiveness even at 36, and reminding everyone that his Max Holloway knockout isn't the whole story. He says Paddy is undefeated in the UFC and a serious threat to collapse Gaethje's dream in one night.
So first off, my hat goes off to Ilya for doing that, because a lot of fighters would be like, no, I'm going to hold on to it and make everybody wait. So my hat's off to him for pulling that, the Khalil, not Khalil, but the Jamal Hill and the Yuri Prochazka, right? Like saying,
Right.
you know, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to let these other guys fight for it and let them shake things out the way it needs to shake out. So even though he's not relinquishing the belt, he is letting somebody fight for the interim belt. So my hat's off to him for doing that. And when you have personal problems, you're not going to be able to fight well. And he understands that. So hats off to him for also recognizing that and not just trying to push through, because typically we'd be like, oh man, he should be fighting anyway. But the fact that he's recognizing that he's not going to be able to give us his best work and he needs to sit out for a while, hopefully things get better for him. And I'm wishing him all the luck and success in getting those things behind him so he can come back and fight.
Bisping warns that this might be Gaethje's last big swing, but Paddy has the movement, the IQ, and the firepower to wreck him if he's underestimated. MMA Guru calls the fight wild, says Paddy magically jumped to #5 thanks to pure Scouse voodoo, and reminds everyone Gaethje demanded a title or retirement, and the UFC delivered.
Well, I know someone who's not happy, and I'm sure that's Arman Tsarukyan, right? I'm sure he believes he deserves to be in this fight, and he was saying even after the win, like, didn't take any damage. If they want me to fight in January, that's when he's being asked about Ilya, but I'm sure if they called him to fight either of these guys for an interim belt, he would have done it.
You know, and it's unfortunate too, because we put this burden on these fighters, but it says a lot though. It says a lot about the direction that Paramount wants to go with the UFC, really. It says that, listen, we want guys that are going to bang. And it's an unfair burden that we put on fighters to say, we want you to win, be successful and win it. And you also have to entertain us by putting your neck on the line and taking a lot of chances and taking damage in the process. Because when you got guys like Justin Gaethje, that's what they do, but they're fan favorites. A guy like Arman Tsarukyan might not be a fan favorite because he's so grappling oriented.
Adam Catterall says Arman should have been in this fight, but got buried because big names sell more than cold merit. Eric Jackman goes scorched earth, calling this interim title one of the least meaningful in years, comparing it to the Gain-Lewis disaster, and saying it's insane when Arman is clearly better than both.
So it's kind of telling of where the direction of where they want the UFC to go, because they're trying to get eyeballs, man. Without eyeballs, the sport goes nowhere. So for Arman Tsarukyan, he might have to sit out for a little bit, but you know, he definitely deserves it and his time is coming. It's just, I think right now Paramount and the UFC is kind of establishing that, you know, we're going to want some entertainers in there, and if you're not entertaining us, if entertainment is not a part of your priority, then that might be an issue.
So Gaethje gets one more chance at glory, Paddy gets a rocket strap to stardom, Ilya heals from chaos, and Arman Tsarukyan, the best lightweight not named Islam, is forced to wait like a forgotten stepchild. Tell me, is this the UFC you signed up for, or is this straight robbery?
This is a very, very tough competitive matchup. Now, Justin Gaethje is no spring chicken. I think he's 36 years old. But you know what you're going to get with Justin Gaethje. Yes, of course, against Max Holloway at UFC 300, he got knocked out. He got embarrassed. He got face planted. I tell you what, it was a shocking scene, okay? But that's not normally what happens with Justin Gaethje. He is one of the most exciting fighters. They do call him the human highlight reel for a reason. He's got great wrestling, but the boxing, the striking, the leg kicks, the punch power that he has, I'm telling you, this man is no joke. And neither is Paddy Pimblett, right? We saw last time against Michael Chandler, he is the real deal. He absolutely smoked him. He's undefeated in the UFC. He put a beating on Michael Chandler.
I reckon Pimblett's beating him. Mixing up the grappling and the striking, staying at range, not being in the pocket with him like a Chandler would be, like a Fiziev would be. I reckon Pimblett's gonna beat him. Gaethje coming towards the tail end of his career. I just want to mention now, Arman Tsarukyan is... this is tough for Arman. Okay, he's probably going to have to fight someone else. He said he would be on this card. I don't know if they then called him and he said, no, I can't be on that card, and that's why they've done this. If that's what comes out from this, I guess it could be a bit more understandable, because otherwise it would have been Nunes Harrison to main event, and we just can't have that.
Drop your prediction now. Will Gaethje's firepower melt Paddy, or does Pimblett pull the upset and change the sport forever? And if you're riding with Arman, let us know why the UFC must stop ignoring the real #1 contender.
And for Justin Gaethje, this is the final go. This is the final crack of the whip. The man's had 2 title fights in the past, Charles Oliveira to Khabib Nurmagomedov, and now he gets to go up against Paddy Pimblett. Now, talking about the matchup, of course, it is an easier fight for Justin than what it is against Khabib Nurmagomedov, one of the greatest of all time. Islam Makhachev, the current pound for pound, and according to many people, a man that is surpassing Khabib Nurmagomedov, right? So in that regard, it is an easier matchup. Will Paddy be able to take him down? Will he dance around the octagon? Yes, he will. Will he try and replicate the game plan of Max Holloway? Of course he will. Who wouldn't try and do that? You aren't going to stand and go toe-to-toe with Justin Gaethje, because the man does have knockout power. But underestimate Paddy at your peril. That's all I'll say about that one, but that is a phenomenal fight.
We just can't have that. But this is insane. Gaethje versus Pimblett is an absolutely insane fight. I'm looking forward to it. This is a massive, massive matchup. Ton of hype on the line, but I do want to mention Pimblett has floated up to number 5 in the rankings. Magically. Scouse magic, dude. Scouse magic. Don't ask for that on a street corner in Liverpool, by the way, but this is some Scouse magic. Okay? He just levitated his way into an interim title shot, which is insane, but fair enough. As an Englishman, I'm all on board with this. But, you know, it is what it is. I think he'll beat Gaethje, but let it be known, Gaethje said, I'm not fighting ever again, and I'll retire if you don't give me a title shot. And they bent the knee. They bent the knee to Justin Gaethje. and just gave him what he wanted through him threatening to retire after beating Fiziev on short notice.
Hit like, punch, subscribe, and crack that notification bell because what's coming next in this division is about to explode.